The stars were dying, and Commanderin knew it. She stood on the bridge of her warship, watching another solar system collapse into darkness. The screens showed the same horror she had witnessed 17 times before. First, the outer planets went silent. Then the inner world stopped transmitting. Finally, nothing remained but empty space and the faint traces of what used to be civilizations. They were consuming everything. Anne's crystalline body shifted colors from blue to deep purple, a sign of stress among her people. She had commanded fleets for 60 years, fought in 12 campaigns, and earned every medal the Galactic Federation could offer. But nothing had prepared her for this. "Commander, the defense fleet at Sector 9 has fallen," her tactical officer reported. His voice trembled. "No survivors." And closed all 4 of her eyes. Sector 9 had held 5 billion souls. Now it held nothing. They had awakened 3 months ago from their 1,000-year sleep. Ancient records spoke of them, but most species thought they were myths. The Galactic Federation had grown comfortable in those 1,000 years. They built beautiful cities, created art, and explored the peaceful regions of space. War became a distant memory. Then the returned, and the Federation remembered what true terror felt like. These creatures were not like anything the Federation had fought before. They were massive, with bodies that seemed half alive and half machine. Energy weapons bounced off their shells. Missiles exploded harmlessly against their armor. And worst of all, they adapted. Every tactic the Federation used, they learned to counter within days. And walked to the strategic display. Red markers covered the map, each one showing a victory. Blue markers representing Federation forces grew fewer every day. At this rate, the entire Federation would fall within 6 months. "We need a miracle," her second officer whispered. And had stopped believing in miracles weeks ago. But she had started believing in desperate choices. She returned to her private quarters and accessed the forbidden archives. The files were old, marked with the highest security clearance, and carried warnings that made even seasoned commanders nervous. But it had authorization that most officers did not. As a high fleet commander, she could access anything if she believed it necessary for Federation survival. She found what she was looking for in the restricted contact files. Earth Quarantine World, Classification, Death World Class XII. The report was 300 years old. A Federation exploration ship had detected radio signals from a small blue planet in the outer rim. Following first contact protocols, they sent a diplomatic team in a shielded shuttle. The mission seemed routine. It became a disaster. 17 contact specialists died within days. They had worn protective suits. They had followed every safety procedure. But the humans, the planet's inhabitants, carried microscopic organisms that the Federation had never encountered. These tiny life forms passed through the shuttle's filters and infected the crew. The survivors fled and placed a permanent quarantine beacon around Earth's solar system. They marked it as the most dangerous world ever discovered. The report included scans of the planet itself, and it understood why they were terrified. Earth was a nightmare world. Its gravity would crush most Federation species. The atmospheric pressure could cause internal bleeding. The temperature swings ranged from freezing to boiling. The weather systems included hurricanes that could level cities and earthquakes that split continents. The oceans contained enough salt to poison most known life forms. And yet, intelligent life had evolved there. The humans had not only survived but thrived. And read deeper into the files. The humans had been primitive when the Federation found them, barely capable of leaving their planet. But the psychological profiles made her pause. Human persistence was noted as abnormal and concerning. Their pain tolerance was classified as extremely high. Their capacity for violence was marked as unprecedented among intelligent species. The Federation had decided that humans were too dangerous to contact. Better to let them develop on their own, far away from civilized space. but saw something different in the reports. She saw potential. They thrived in conditions that killed Federation species. They fought with brutal efficiency. They never stopped, never tired, and never showed mercy. The Federation could not match them because they had evolved on gentle worlds where survival came easy. But humans had evolved on Earth, a death world, a place where every day was a battle to survive. She made her decision. Working quickly and programmed a message into a shielded probe. The message was simple: "We are dying. If you can hear this, we need you." She included basic translation matrices and coordinates to the fallback station at Prime. Then she did something that would end her career if the Council discovered it. She launched the probe toward Earth. The probe traveled for 2 weeks through slip space before emerging in Earth's solar system. It broadcast the message on every frequency humans might monitor. Then it waited. On Earth, in a military facility buried deep beneath old mountains, Captain was finishing his night shift when the alarm sounded. He ran to the communications center, where dozens of officers were already gathering around the main screen. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," the communications officer said. "It's from outside the solar system." Felt his heart race. Earth had known about the quarantine for 300 years. They had tried to contact the Federation several times, but the quarantine beacon blocked all attempts. Humanity had been alone, watching the stars and wondering if they would ever be welcomed. Now someone was calling them. The translation software worked through the alien language. The message appeared on screen, and the room fell silent. "They're asking for help," said slowly. "The aliens are asking us for help." An older officer laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "They quarantined us, called us too dangerous. Now they need us." Studied the message. The desperation was clear even through the translation. Whoever sent this had broken rules to do it. He recognized that kind of courage. It was the courage of someone who had run out of options. "Get me Doctor," ordered, "and wake up the EDC Council. Tell them we have a situation." Within hours, Earth's Defense Coalition had assembled. Doctor, the planet's leading expert on alien biology, analyzed every piece of data the probe contained. What she found made her blood run cold. She said, displaying images on the screen. "Look at their structure. They're similar to creatures we have in our deepest oceans. Creatures that live in crushing pressure, total darkness, and toxic water." "So," one of the council members asked. "So the Federation species evolved on Paradise Worlds," explained. "They've never seen anything like this, but we have. Earth is full of creatures that would terrify them. We're used to fighting things that are stronger, faster, and more dangerous than we are. It's how we survived." Understood. The Federation had quarantined Earth because it was too dangerous, but that danger was exactly what they needed now. "Prepare a response team," he said. "We're going to answer their call." For the first time in 300 years, humans would leave their solar system. They would meet the species that had feared them, and they would show the galaxy what could do. The Earth ship, Indomitable, dropped out of slip space at the edge of the system, and immediately every sensor started screaming warnings. Captain stood on the bridge, watching the chaos unfold on the screens. Hundreds of refugee ships filled the space around the massive orbital station. Some were damaged, trailing atmosphere and debris. Others were overloaded with evacuees, their engines struggling. And in the distance, dark shapes moved between the stars. "The fleet. They're larger than the data suggested," Lieutenant said from the tactical station. Her fingers moved across the controls, analyzing the enemy ships. "Each one is at least 5 times the size of our vessel." Nodded. The Indomitable was humanity's finest warship, built in secret over the past century. But looking at the fleet, he wondered if it would be enough. "Sir, we're being hailed by the station," the communications officer reported. "They're demanding identification and they're activating weapons systems." "Stand down our weapons," ordered. "Open a channel, let's introduce ourselves." The screen flickered, showing Commander N's crystalline face. Her 4 eyes widened when she saw. For a long moment neither spoke. "You came," N finally said. Her voice carried through the translation software with an edge of disbelief. "I did not think you would." "You asked for help," replied simply. "We're here to provide it." N's body shifted colors rapidly, something guessed meant strong emotion. "Dock at Bay 17. I am clearing the area and sealing it with extra containment. No offense intended, but your people carry dangers my species cannot risk." "None taken, we understand." The docking process took hours. The station had to create a special sealed environment just for the human ship. Other vessels moved away and noticed the refugee ships giving them an extremely wide berth. "They're afraid of us," Wu observed. He was the security chief, a large man with scars from the Titan colony wars, just from our ship being here. 300 years of quarantine warnings will do that, Doctor said. She was reviewing biological data from the station, comparing it to Earth norms. "Their atmosphere is thinner than ours. Temperature is lower. Gravity is about 60% of Earth standard. We're going to feel like we're on the moon." The 30-member crew of humans prepared to disembark. They wore light environmental suits, more to protect the aliens than themselves. Each suit had been scrubbed clean and filtered to prevent contamination. When the airlock opened, led his crew into the station corridor. Immediately, alarms started blaring. "Containment breach! Containment breach!" Automated voices screamed in a dozen languages. Wu's hand moved toward his weapon but stopped him. "Easy, they're just panicking." Through the corridor windows, they could see alien species scrambling away. Some were running, others were sealing themselves in emergency shelters. A few looked like they might faint. "Captain, what is happening?" N's voice came through the communication system. "The station AI is detecting biological hazards." "That's us," said calmly. "We're breathing. Our presence is setting off every danger sensor you have." A long pause followed. "You are just breathing." "Yes, our exhaled air contains more carbon dioxide than your species can tolerate. Our skin sheds cells constantly. We carry bacteria that your scanners read as dangerous pathogens. This is normal for us." Could hear N discussing with others in the background. Finally, she said, "Continue to conference room 7. I will meet you there. Alone." The walk through the station was surreal. The corridors were massive but felt empty despite the station holding millions of refugees. Aliens watched from behind reinforced glass, their expressions ranging from terror to fascination. Some took pictures, others hid. "I feel like a monster in a horror film," muttered. "To them we probably are," replied. Conference room 7 was built like a vault. Thick walls, independent life support, and emergency containment systems. When the humans entered, they found N waiting. She stood on the opposite side of a large table, her body displaying colors that quietly identified as extreme caution. Removed his helmet and flinched backward. "Your air is thin," said conversationally, "but breathable, will adapt within a few hours." "You can survive in our atmosphere," N asked, "without your suit." "This isn't a survival suit, it's courtesy. We wore it so we wouldn't contaminate your station." Sat down in one of the chairs, which was too small and too fragile for his frame. It creaked under his weight. "Now tell us about the—" And hesitated, then began displaying tactical data. The holographic images showed the attacks, their spread across Federation space, and the failed defense attempts. Studied the biological scans with growing interest. These creatures live in high-pressure environments. Their armor is designed to keep pressure in, not weapons out. They've adapted to crushing depths. "Our weapons cannot penetrate their defenses," and said. "Energy beams are absorbed. Our kinetic weapons lack the force to break through." "Because you're using the wrong weapons," Wu said. He pulled up data from Earth's military archives. You're trying to burn them or blast them. You need to crack them like shells. Armor-piercing rounds, shaped charges, hydraulic pressure weapons. The Federation species stared at the brutal weaponry humans had developed, and colors shifted to something identified as horror. You use chemical explosives, and asked. Propelled metal projectiles, these are primitive weapons. They're effective weapons, Wu corrected. Your energy weapons are elegant, ours are practical. When you want to break armor, you use force, not heat. Brought up Earth data on the main display. He showed the planet's hostile environment, the deadly weather, the dangerous wildlife. Then he showed human history, wars, survival against impossible odds, adaptation to conditions that should have killed them. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every single day, explained. Extreme temperatures, violent weather, predators that could tear us apart, diseases that wiped out entire populations. We survived by becoming tougher, smarter, and more persistent than anything else on our planet. He showed footage of human endurance tests, soldiers marching for days without rest, athletes pushing their bodies beyond breaking points, people surviving in deserts, Arctic wastes, and deep jungles. Your species rests after a few hours of combat, continued. Humans can fight for days. We evolved to chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We call it persistence hunting. No other species we know of does this. And watched the footage in silence. Finally she spoke. You are apex predators. Yes, confirmed. But we're also intelligent. We know when to be predators and when to be protectors. You asked for help, we're offering it, but you need to understand what you're asking for. What do you mean? You're asking to fight your war, said bluntly. We'll use tactics you consider brutal. We'll take risks you think are suicidal. We'll fight in ways that will disturb you, because that's how you win against creatures like the. Anne's body went through several color changes. Watched her carefully, trying to read the alien's emotions. The council has forbidden your presence, and finally said. They say humans are too dangerous, that bringing you here risks replacing one threat with another. Do you believe that? Asked. I believe my people are dying, and said. I believe that will destroy everything we have built. I believe we need help from someone who understands how to fight creatures that cannot be stopped by conventional means. She stepped closer to the table, her 4 eyes meeting too. Help us, and said, I will face the council's judgment later. Right now I need. Stood at his full height, he towered over the crystalline commander, but he extended his hand in the human gesture of agreement. You have our help, he said. Show us where they are strongest, we'll show you how humans fight. And looked at the extended hand, then carefully touched it with one of her crystalline limbs. The gesture was sealed. The had entered the war. The Planet 7 was hell, and Sergeant Jin Ho loved it. He stood at the drop ship's open door, looking down at the burning world below. The surface glowed red with volcanic activity. Sulfuric clouds swirled in the yellow atmosphere. The temperature readings made his helmet display flash warning symbols. Looks like home, he said with a grin. Lieutenant checked her weapon systems. If by home you mean Venus during its angry season, then yes. The 12-person strike team was humanity's best. Jin Ho had fought in conditions that would kill most people within minutes, had survived 3 tours on Titan. Corporal, their heavy weapons specialist, had grown up in the deep ocean colonies where pressure could crush submarines. They were Earth's answer to impossible missions. 30 seconds to drop, the pilot announced, and I want to be very clear that I think you're all insane. Noted, Jin Ho replied. See you in 6 hours. If you survive that long in this hellhole. The dropship doors opened fully, and the team jumped. The fall through Seven's atmosphere was violent. The sulfuric clouds burned away their drop pod's outer layer. The heat made the metal glow, But the pods held, and within 2 minutes, the team crashed into the surface near the nest. Jin-Ho was first out. His boots hit the ground, and he immediately felt the gravity pulling at him. It was 1.8 times Earth normal, which meant every movement took more effort. The temperature outside his suit was 340 degrees Celsius. The atmosphere was poisonous. "This is perfect," he said. The rest of the team deployed around him. They moved in a tight formation, weapons ready, scanning for threats. Above them, in orbit, Commander and watched from her ship. She had seen the environmental readings. No Federation species could survive down there for more than a few minutes, even in their best protective suits. But the humans were acting like they were on a pleasant walk. "Are they truly unaffected?" one of her officers asked. "Look at their vital signs," and said, displaying the data. "Heart rates are elevated but stable. Their suits are barely working to maintain comfortable temperatures. They trained for this." On the surface, Jin-Ho led the team toward the nest entrance. They had converted an old mining facility into their breeding ground, digging deep into Seven's molten core region. The Federation had tried 4 times to retake it. Each time, they lost entire battle groups. "Contact," said calmly. 300 meters, multiple targets approaching fast. Jin-Ho saw them through his helmet display. 5 warriors, each 3 meters tall, moving with disturbing speed across the burning landscape. "Remember the plan," Jin-Ho said. "Aim for joints and weak points. Don't waste ammunition on the armor." They charged. Their roars came through the toxic atmosphere as distorted screeches. They were terrifying, evolved for pure combat efficiency. The humans opened fire. The sound of gunfire was different in Seven's atmosphere. Sharper, more violent. Armor-piercing rounds flew downrange, and the first warrior stumbled as bullets found the gaps in its exoskeleton. And watched from orbit, stunned. "They are using projectile weapons, chemical explosives. I thought these were obsolete." "Watch," one of her tactical officers said quietly. The wounded tried to regenerate, its body knitting together the damage, but had already switched to incendiary grenades. The explosion engulfed the creature in white-hot fire, burning hotter than the planet's surface. The screamed and collapsed, its regeneration unable to cope with the sustained heat. The other 4 warriors adapted quickly. They spread out, trying to flank the human position, but Jin-Ho had seen this tactic before. "Fall back to the canyon," he ordered. The team retreated in perfect formation. They pursued, thinking they had the humans on the run, but when they entered the narrow canyon, they found themselves in a kill zone. Had positioned herself on the high ground. Her rifle picked off warriors as they bottlenecked in the narrow space. Fired explosive rounds that ricocheted off the canyon walls, hitting them from multiple angles. Jin-Ho and the others held the ground position, creating a crossfire that tore the creatures apart. Within 5 minutes, all 5 were dead. "This is impossible," and whispered. "My people lost hundreds of soldiers to warriors. These humans just killed 5 with 0 casualties." "They are using terrain," her tactical officer observed, "and defensive positioning. We do not fight this way." Jin-Ho checked his team. Everyone was operational. They had used maybe 10% of their ammunition. "Push forward," he ordered. "We have a nest to clear." The team moved deeper into the facility. The temperature increased as they descended. Warning alarms constantly blared in their helmets, but the humans ignored them. They were trained to trust their equipment until it actually failed, not just when it complained. They encountered more, small groups at first, then larger clusters. Each time, the humans used tactics the Federation had never considered. They set traps using explosives. They created choke points in corridors. They used the facility's industrial equipment as improvised weapons. Found a brood mother in the central chamber. The creature was massive, 10 meters long, with dozens of smaller clustering around it. "Well, that's the target," she said calmly. She pulled out a shoulder-fired missile, aimed and fired. The missile streaked across the chamber and impacted the brood mother's head. The explosion was devastating, but the creature survived, its regeneration already working. "Of course it did," muttered. She charged forward while the other were still disoriented from the blast. What happened next made in question everything she knew about combat. Ran straight at a regenerating brood mother, dodging the smaller, and pulled out a monomolecular blade. She jumped onto the creature's back and drove the blade deep into the base of its skull, where the armor was thinnest. The brood mother thrashed wildly. Acid blood sprayed across suit, burning through the outer layer and scorching her arm. She screamed but didn't let go. Instead, she twisted the blade and activated its vibration function, turning the creature's brain into liquid. The brood mother collapsed, rolled off its back, her left arm badly burned. "Status," Jin-Ho called, already moving to her position. "I'm fine," she said through gritted teeth. She pulled an injector from her belt and jabbed it into her neck. Combat stimulants flooded her system, blocking the pain. "Just a scratch." "That is not a scratch," and said to her officers. She had watched the acid burn through the suit. "That is a severe injury. Why is she still fighting?" "Because she is human," one of her officers said with something like awe in his voice. The team cleared the rest of the nest methodically. When they found eggs, they used thermite charges to destroy them completely. When they encountered resistance, they used overwhelming firepower. When they tried to swarm them, the humans fell back to defensive positions and held ground that should have been overrun. 18 hours after landing, Jin-Ho transmitted the mission success signal. "Nest destroyed, all eliminated, requesting extraction," and stared at the tactical display. 7, which had cost the Federation 4 battle groups and thousands of lives, had been retaken by 12 humans in less than a day. "Show me the casualty report," she ordered. The data came through: 1 severe injury, 5 minor injuries, 0 fatalities. "How?" she asked. "How is this possible?" Her tactical officer pulled up footage from the humans' helmet cameras and watched 18 hours of combat condensed into a brief summary. She saw humans fighting in conditions that should kill them. She saw them pushing through injuries that would have incapacitated her people. She saw them adapt to every tactic within minutes. And then she saw something that made her understand. In one clip, Jin-Ho was pinned down by 3 warriors. His weapon was empty. His backup weapon was jammed. He should have retreated or called for support. Instead, he grabbed a piece of broken metal from the ground, charged the nearest, and beat it to death with improvised weapon. When that broke, he used his hands. When the second attacked, he used the first one's corpse as a shield. He won through pure refusal to give up. "They do not stop," and said quietly. "We have weapons, we have tactics, we have courage, but we stop when exhausted or injured or afraid. Humans do not, they simply do not stop." The extraction ship picked up the team 6 hours later. Jin-Ho was the last one aboard. He looked back at the burning planet one more time. "Not bad for a warm-up," he said. In orbit, and made a decision. She opened a secure channel to the Federation Council. "I am transmitting combat footage from 7, she said. "Watch it, all of it. Then try to tell me we do not need these humans. Try to tell me we can win this war without them." She cut the channel before they could respond. They had proven themselves. Now the real war could begin. The Galactic Council chamber had stood for 3,000 years. It had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations, the signing of peace treaties, and the declaration of wars. But it had never witnessed anything like this. Captain stood in the center of the massive hall, alone. 300 species watched him from their seats, which rose in circular tiers around the speaking floor. Some wore environmental suits. Others had increased their security details. Several delegations had refused to attend if a human was present. The fear in the chamber was thick enough to taste. "This is a mistake," Ambassador of the Collective said. His species resembled large insects, and his translator made his voice sound like clicking metal. "We asked for military assistance. We did not ask to bring a predator species into our midst." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Waited patiently. He had expected this. The footage from Seven had spread through the Federation faster than anyone anticipated. Some species saw it as hope, others saw it as a new nightmare. "The humans violated our quarantine," another delegate said. "They were sealed away for good reason. Their world is a death trap. They carry diseases we cannot cure. They are too violent, too dangerous, too effective," and interrupted, her crystalline form glowing as she stood from her seat. "Say what you mean, Ambassador. You are not afraid of human diseases. You are afraid of human capability." The chamber erupted in arguments. Delegates shouted in dozens of languages. The translation system struggled to keep up. Raised his hand, and somehow the simple gesture cut through the chaos. The chamber fell silent. "May I speak?" he asked calmly. The council speaker, an ancient being whose species had founded the Federation, gestured permission. "You fear us," began. "I understand. You should fear us. We are apex predators who evolved on a world that tried to kill us every single day. We learned to fight, to adapt, to survive against impossible odds. We are not like you." He activated a holographic display. Images of Earth appeared above him. "This is our world. Watch." The display showed Earth's history. Ice ages that buried continents under kilometers of ice. Volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun for years and killed most life. Asteroid impacts that made the attacks look gentle. Diseases that wiped out millions. Predators with claws, teeth, and venom that could kill in seconds. "We did not choose this world," continued. "We were born into it, and we had two choices, adapt or die. We chose to adapt." The images changed. Humans hunting across vast plains, chasing prey for days until the animals collapsed. Humans surviving in frozen wastelands wearing animal skins. Humans crossing scorching deserts with limited water. Humans diving deep into oceans despite having no gills. "You evolved on paradise worlds," said. "Stable climates, gentle gravity, abundant food, few predators. You reach for the stars because you were curious. We reach for the stars because we ran out of challenges on Earth." Doctor joined him on the floor. She pulled up biological comparison data. "Look at our bodies," she said. "Our bones are denser than yours to handle extreme gravity. Our muscles are stronger because we evolved to run for hours. Our immune systems fight off threats constantly because Earth is full of hostile organisms. We heal faster. We adapt quicker. We endure longer." She showed footage of human endurance tests. Athletes running for days. Soldiers training in extreme heat and cold. Workers handling dangerous materials that would kill most Federation species on contact. "This is not special for us," explained. "This is normal. Every human child grows up learning to push past pain, past exhaustion, past fear. Because on Earth, those who could not do this did not survive to have children." "Then you admit you are dangerous," Ambassador said. "Yes," replied simply. "We are very dangerous, but we are also intelligent enough to choose when to be dangerous and when to be gentle. You judge us by what we can do. Judge us instead by what we choose to do." He showed new footage. Human rescue workers saving people from disasters. Human doctors treating diseases. Human engineers building cities. Human teachers educating children. Human artists creating beauty. "We can destroy," said, "but we also build. We also heal. We also protect. They are destroying your worlds. We are offering to stop them, not to conquer you, not to rule you, to save you." Colonel Wu, Earth's military, stepped forward. She carried a data pad containing Earth's military knowledge. "Commander N has asked me to share what we call the doctrine," she said. These are tactics and strategies that have never existed in Federation military thinking. She uploaded the data to the Council's system. Delegates began reviewing it, and their reactions ranged from shock to horror. Guerrilla warfare, one delegate read aloud. Fighting from hidden positions, targeting supply lines, using the environment as a weapon. Psychological operations, another said. Manipulating enemy morale, spreading fear using deception. Endurance-based strategies, a third added. Fighting in shifts around the clock, never giving the enemy time to rest. These tactics are dishonorable, Ambassador declared. War should be fought openly, with clear rules of engagement. Why? Asked bluntly. They do not follow your rules. They do not care about honor. They want to survive, and they do whatever it takes. We understand this because we have fought wars like this for our entire history. She pulled up Earth's military history. Wars that lasted years. Conflicts where neither side gave up. Battles where victory went to whoever could endure longest. Your wars last weeks or months, said. Then both sides are exhausted and make peace. They will never get exhausted. They will never make peace. You need soldiers who can match their endurance. You need humans. The chamber descended into heated debate. Some delegates argued for accepting human help. Others insisted it was too dangerous. The arguments continued for hours. And watched it all with growing frustration. Her people were dying while the council debated philosophy. Finally she stood again. Enough. While we talk the advance. 3 more worlds fell today. How many more will die before you make a decision? We must be cautious, the council speaker said. Bringing humans into our space could be. The warning alarms cut him off. Red lights flashed throughout the chamber. Tactical displays activated automatically, showing a dire situation. A massive fleet was approaching Prime itself. They are targeting this station, a military officer reported, his voice panicked. Fleet strength, 200 capital ships. Estimated time to engagement, 4 hours. The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates screamed for evacuation. Security teams rushed to protect their ambassadors. The orderly council dissolved into panic. Remained calm. He looked at Anne and she looked back. My ship is ready, he said quietly, but one ship will not be enough. And made her decision. She opened a communication channel to his crew. Send the signal, she ordered. Call your people, tell them we need them now. Nodded, he activated his personal communicator, broadcasting on Earth's military frequencies. This is Captain to Earth Defense Coalition. Authorization code Alpha 7. The Federation is under attack at Prime. They need immediate assistance. I am requesting full deployment of all available forces. The response came within seconds. Confirmed, Captain. The fleet is already in slip space. Estimated arrival 3 hours. En's eyes widened. You called your fleet before the council approved. You called us for help, said. We were always coming. We just needed you to realize you wanted us here. The council speaker tried to regain control of the chamber. This is highly irregular. The council has not voted. Then vote quickly, interrupted. Because in 3 hours 50 Earth warships will arrive, and in 4 hours you will see exactly what can do when they go to war. The chamber fell silent. Everyone understood what was happening. Humanity had called their bluff. The quarantine was broken. Earth was entering the galactic stage, and they were entering as warriors. All in favor of accepting human military assistance, the council speaker said quietly, indicate now. The vote was not unanimous, but it was enough. Allowed himself a small smile. Thank you. Now if you will excuse me, I have a battle to prepare for. He turned and walked toward the exit. As he left, he heard delegates still arguing, still debating, still afraid. Let them be afraid, he thought. They should be more afraid. They were coming, and they were bringing 10,000 volunteers who had nothing to lose and everything to prove. Earth was going to war. The slip space ruptures appeared like tears in reality itself. 50 Earth warships emerged in perfect formation at the edge of the system. Each ship was smaller than the Federation's capital vessels, but they moved with a coordinated precision that made commander and tactical officers gasp. "They fight as one mind," one officer whispered. "No," and corrected, "they fight as one pack." On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain studied the battlefield. The fleet was massive, 200 capital ships arranged in standard assault formation. Behind them, on prime surface, more were conducting a ground invasion. "Standard Federation tactics would call for a defensive line," said. "We form up, exchange fire, hope to outlast them." "That's suicide," Wu observed. "We're outnumbered 4-1. "Exactly, so we don't fight like the Federation." Open the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Indomitable Actual. Execute Wolf Pack Protocol. Targets are marked. Show them how humans hunt." The Earth fleet split into 5 groups. Instead of forming a defensive line, they accelerated toward the fleet from multiple angles. The enemy ships began firing, their massive energy weapons tearing through space. But the human ships were faster, more maneuverable. They dodged, weaved, and returned fire with weapons they had never encountered, that fired metal slugs at relativistic speeds, missile swarms that adapted to countermeasures, and something the Federation thought was insane: boarding pods. "All boarding teams, this is Jin Ho. We're going in hot. Remember your training and watch each other's backs." Sergeant Jin Ho's pod slammed into a capital ship's hull. The shaped charges blew through the armor, and his team of 8 humans poured into the breach. They found themselves in a corridor filled with toxic atmosphere and crushing gravity. "Feels like home," said cheerfully, her heavy weapon already tracking targets. The inside the ship responded to the intrusion with savage efficiency. Warriors poured toward the breach point. But the humans were fighting in an environment where every advantage belonged to them. The toxic air did not bother them. The high gravity was uncomfortable but manageable. The radiation levels that would kill Federation soldiers in minutes were merely hazardous. Jin Ho's team moved through the ship like ghosts. They planted nuclear charges at critical junctions, destroyed life support systems, and eliminated warriors with brutal efficiency. When they were cut off from their extraction point, they adapted. They found another route, and when that failed, they blew open an emergency airlock and escaped in individual pods while the ship tore itself apart from internal explosions. In orbit, and watched as 5 capital ships went dark within 30 minutes. "They boarded them," she said in disbelief. "They went inside hostile vessels, fought in environments that should kill them, and destroyed the ships from within." "It's working," her tactical officer reported. "The fleet is breaking formation. They're trying to defend against boarding actions." On prime surface, Colonel Wu coordinated the ground defense. 10,000 human volunteers had deployed across the planet's major cities. The ground invasion was massive, with hundreds of thousands of warriors spreading across the surface. Studied the tactical map and smiled. "They're advancing in a standard wave formation. They expect us to meet them head-on." "What do we do instead?" a young lieutenant asked. "We let them advance. Then we kill them from positions they do not expect." They pushed forward, overwhelming the initial Federation defensive positions. They thought they were winning. Then the humans revealed themselves. From buildings, sewers, underground tunnels, and concealed positions, human soldiers opened fire, not in organized lines but from everywhere at once. They suddenly found themselves taking fire from above, below, and all sides. Lieutenant led a team through the city's underground transit system. They emerged behind lines, destroyed their supply depot, and vanished before the enemy could respond. Other teams used similar tactics, hitting command posts, communication centers, and breeding sites. "This is urban warfare," explained to a confused Federation general. "On Earth, We learned to fight in cities thousands of years ago. Every building is a fortress. Every street is a kill zone. They have numerical superiority, but we have terrain and tactics. The battle raged for hours. They adapted quickly, as they always did. They learned to watch for ambushes, to secure their flanks, to protect their supply lines. But humans adapted faster. Doctor worked in a makeshift laboratory near the front lines. She had been studying captured specimens, and she found their weakness. They evolved in high-pressure environments, she explained too. Their cellular structure requires constant pressure to maintain integrity. If we can create rapid pressure changes, their cells will literally tear themselves apart. Can you weaponize it? Asked. Already done. Held up a small device. Modified Earth bacteria that produce gas at exponential rates. Release it in enclosed spaces, and they will experience explosive decompression from inside their own bodies. That's brutal, said. That's war, replied. Do you want to win, or do you want to be honorable? Distributed the biological weapons to her forces. Within hours, advance slowed as warriors began dying from mysterious internal injuries. The enemy tried to adapt, but they could not fight an invisible threat. In orbit, fleet had reduced the armada to less than 50 ships. The humans had lost 7 vessels, but they had achieved a casualty ratio that should have been impossible. Final push, ordered. All ships converge on the enemy flagship. We take out their command and this fleet is finished. The remaining human ships formed up for one coordinated assault. They absorbed heavy fire, losing 2 more vessels, but they broke through the defensive screen. The Indomitable led the charge, its weapons blazing. Stood on the bridge, watching the enemy flagship grow larger on the screens. All power to forward weapons, ramming speed. Sir, his helmsman asked. You heard me. If they want to see how dangerous humans are, let's show them. The Indomitable accelerated directly at the flagship. At the last moment, ordered, fire everything, then brace for impact. The ship's weapons unleashed every remaining missile, every round, every particle beam. The flagship's shields collapsed under the barrage. Then the Indomitable rammed into it at full speed. The impact was devastating. Both ships were critically damaged, but the Indomitable had been built with Earth engineering, designed to survive collisions that would destroy normal vessels. All hands abandon ship, ordered calmly. We did what we came to do. The human crew evacuated in escape pods. Behind them, the flagship broke apart, its command structure destroyed. The remaining ships, suddenly leaderless, began to retreat. On the planet's surface, watched the orbital battle from her command center. When she saw the retreat begin, she immediately broadcast to all human forces. The enemy is breaking. Now we hunt. Do not let them regroup. Do not let them escape. Push forward. The 10,000 humans surged forward. They were exhausted. Many were wounded. But they had trained their entire lives to push past exhaustion, to fight through pain, to never stop when victory was within reach. The ground forces crumbled. Without orbital support and facing an enemy that refused to stop, they broke and ran. Human forces pursued them relentlessly, showing the same persistence their ancestors had used to hunt prey across ancient plains. By dawn, the Battle of Prime was over. They had been defeated. The cost was heavy: 300 human casualties, 7 ships destroyed, and thousands wounded. But they had saved Prime and proven that they could be beaten. Stood in the ruins of his ship's bridge, waiting for rescue. He looked out at the stars and allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. They had done it. Humanity had proven itself. When the rescue ship arrived, it was commanded by an herself. You destroyed your ship, she said as he climbed aboard. It was the tactically sound decision, replied. Besides, we can build more ships. Lives are harder to replace. And looked at him for a long moment. The Council wants to speak with you. They are ready to formally welcome Earth into the Federation. Good, but we have conditions. Conditions. We're not just soldiers, said. We're not just your attack dogs. We want full membership, equal representation, and the authority to train your people in our methods. The will return. When they do, you need to be ready without us. 3 months later, the war ended. Combined human Federation fleets destroyed the home nebula, collapsing their breeding grounds. The threat was eliminated. The changes that followed transformed the galaxy. Earth established military academies throughout Federation space. Alien species volunteered to train on Earth itself, though most could not survive the harsh conditions for more than a few days. Those who succeeded became the first non-human, trained to think and fight like humans. Doctors' research led to breakthroughs in medicine, biology, and environmental adaptation. Earth's dangerous microorganisms, properly controlled, became the cure for diseases that had plagued the Federation for. Colonel Wu reformed Federation military doctrine from the ground up. Concepts like guerrilla warfare, endurance operations, and psychological tactics became standard training. And Captain, retired from military service, became Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Council. In his opening address, he spoke words that would be remembered for generations. We did not choose to be born on a death world. We did not choose to become predators, but we accepted what we are, and we used our nature to protect those who could not protect themselves. Earth offers the galaxy not conquest but guardianship. We will stand between you and the darkness because that is what do. In schools across Federation space, children learned about the Battle of Prime. They learned about the humans who came from the shadows when the galaxy needed them most. They learned that strength comes in many forms, and sometimes the most dangerous beings are also the most noble. On Earth, a new generation grew up knowing they were no longer quarantined. They were welcomed. They were needed. They were the guardians of a civilization that spanned thousands of worlds. And in the depths of space, monitoring stations watched for new threats, staffed by humans and aliens working side by side. If darkness came again, they would be ready. They had emerged from the shadows, and they were home.